Our first lesson is from the book of Revelation. We have been going through the book of Revelation the last few weeks, and we will continue to do so leading up to the celebration of what's called New Church Day, the June 19th, the day that's mentioned in several places in the works of the new church as the time when the Lord sent forth His 12 disciples into the whole spiritual world to let them know the wonderful things that are contained in the book of Revelation. So in the book of Revelation, as you know, the Lord appeared to John, and it said He appeared amidst 7 lampstands. And we talked about that last time. I'm just going to show one picture of an artist's idea of what the Lord might have looked like. Wearing a robe very similar to the robe I'm wearing, because this robe is modeled after the one that's the book of Revelation. And then you can see He has the candlesticks, very similar to the ones we have here around Him. And He represents the Word itself. The Lord talking to us is His Word. So in the book of Revelation, in chapter 6, after the Lord has spoken to all the 7 churches that are mentioned, as I talked about last week, tells them various things, then the Lord is seen, and a scroll is seen. Do you know what a scroll is? You've probably seen this used in our tableau or Christmas pageants that we have. When I read from a book, or you read from a book nowadays, we read from a book like this, right? A book that's been, the pages have been put on in a stack, and then they've been glued together, and then we put a cover over it, and that's what we think of as a book. But before those were invented, people would write things down on a long piece of parchment, a piece of material, sometimes made out of something like paper, very similar to paper, sometimes made out of skins. And the scrolls that they had would be opened up, and if it was a special message, I was going to send you a special message, I'd put it in a scroll, I'd write it down, and then I'd seal it. I'd tape it together, kind of. I'd make sure nobody could get into it and look at the message. And that's what this chapter of the book of Revelation is talking about. So this is a representation of a scroll, and you can see that each one of these seals, these golden dots represent a seal. They can all be opened. And if I undid all 7 of them, I can open up this scroll the way I opened up the other one. So, in the section we're reading from in the book of Revelation, I saw the Lamb. The Lord appeared as a lamb. And I heard the voices say to me, "Come and see." So John hears, so he looks. And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat upon the horse had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out to conquer and conquering. And then, when the second seal was opened, I heard a living creature say, "Come and see." And there was a fiery red horse, and it came out, and it was granted to the one who sat upon it to take peace away from the world, and that people should kill one another. And there was given him a great sword. And then he opened the 3rd seal, and I heard a 3rd living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse. And he who sat upon it had a pair of scales in his hand. Now, a pair of scales is like something you would hold that would balance. And if you put something on one side, it would go like this. And if you put the equal amount on the other side, it'd be a balance, called a scale. And I heard a voice from the midst saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley." So they're talking about measuring out amounts of food and oil and wine. And then he opened the 4th seal, and I heard a voice saying, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat upon it was Death, and Hades followed him. And power was given to him over 1/4 of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and by the beasts of the earth. The whole book of Revelation is filled with fantastic, strange, awesome visions. when people talk about the apocalypse or things that are apocalyptic, it's because the book of Revelation, called the apocalypse, has all kinds of things that are terrible taking place. Fires and earthquakes and lightning and the sun and the moon falling to the earth and a dragon appearing and graves being opened up. It's like a horror movie. And lots of horror movies actually are based on things that John saw when he was brought into heaven, and he saw also things that were very hellish. This book has pictures from the Word. And so the first one I'm going to hold up shows the rider on the white horse. And again, it shows a scroll like the one I was showing to you, with the first seal opened. You might not be able to see all the details in your TV or on your computer. And that white horse is the best horse. Now, other colored horses are pretty cool, right? You might love a black horse. They look awesome. In this story, the white horse and the Lord riding upon the white horse stand for the way you have power and ability to understand the Lord's word, the commandments, and that those things carry you along with power and strength. And you can conquer evils and falsities, the Lord with you doing it. And that's what that white horse stands for. The red horse, you may think, well, red, that'd be a pretty color. But the color of this red horse was the color of yucky blood. I mean, it's not a pretty color. And it stands for when people know things from the Lord's word, but they don't really care, and they actually twist things around. And they say yucky things. They say things that aren't really true, even if it sounds like they understand the Lord's word. So people can twist things around and say, well, that person did it to me, I'll do it to them. An eye for an eye and a tooth for tooth. That means I'm allowed to go and hurt somebody else because that's what the word says. And that's really twisted. That's really not good. The third horse that's talked about was the black horse. And that's when people have things from the Lord's word that they know about. I shouldn't kill or steal, but I don't care, they say. And it's like riding on a black horse. And the black horse stands for death. It stands for horrible things. It's not a pretty black horse that you might see out in the pasture. And finally, the last one, the horse that's pale. Pale like sickly pale. Like before somebody, or when somebody's really sick, they can go pale. Well, this horse was really sick. And that stands for, sometimes we'll have ideas that, well, we know from the Word, and we twist the things from the Word around, and we actually make up lies about things from the Word. And if we just don't even care, it's like, oh, we're riding on a pale horse. It's like we're carried along with ideas that are really sick and sad. Now, when you're kids, when you're children, you don't have to be so worried about this happening. It especially happens when you're older. It can happen when you start growing up and having your own ideas from your own mature adult thinking. But we should learn about it as children, because the Lord wants us to know He gives us to ride upon the white horse with Him. He gives us the ability. Wouldn't you love to be given a horse? Lots of people would love to have a horse. Where would we keep it, right? How would we feed it? But the idea, it's so fascinating and wonderful. And there's something very attractive about horses for most people, for many people, because they're beautiful and because they have such power and they can go so fast and they can carry us along. So that idea of the Lord's word being powerful and it can carry us along, and when we have the right idea from the Lord's word and we apply it, that's like riding upon the white horse in the book of Revelation. Amen.